You're welcome back. This is the Marketplace. You can be part of this program by tweeting at Joy Business GH is the handle, by Facebooking Joy Business is our page, and for more business updates, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Now to our very first story. Former Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has proposed some policy reforms which he noted are critical for the country's economic recovery. This, according to him, would include policies related to taxes and industrialization. The NPP running mate was speaking at a lecture on his perspective on the state of the economy.
Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia said a financial sector reform will be embarked upon.
Macroeconomic stability is built around three pillars, which is monetary discipline, fiscal discipline, and financial stability. The NPP will pass a fiscal responsibility law to bring comprehensiveness, accountability, and stability to the entire budgeting process.
On job creation and local participation, Dr. Bawumia reiterated the party's resolve to vigorously implement its flagship One District, One Factory policy, and as well pass a law that would require 70% local participation in the award of public-financed contracts. A 10-year power sector master plan, including an aggressive renewable energy solution for all government and public buildings, Dr. Bawumia noted, would be instituted to address the country's energy challenge. This, he emphasized, would eventually aid an industrialization agenda that would see a revamp of the textile, cement, petrochemical, as well as iron and steel industries in the country.
The NPP will shift the focus of the economy away from taxation and towards production. So we are going to implement a number of tax reforms, and you are going to see the energy of the private sector unleashed as a result.
Away from that, Finance Minister Seth Terkper says the 9.25% interest secured on the country's fifth Eurobond demonstrates high investor confidence in the Ghanaian economy. Government yesterday got an oversubscription of $4 billion from investors who participated in the Eurobond, 5 times more than the $750 million targeted. George Yafe has more on the minister's comments and the Eurobond sale and the expected cost to government.
Finance Minister Seth Terkper says the results shows that government's turnaround strategy is working. He adds that it was interesting the country managed to raise the targeted amount at a rate lower than the 2015 Eurobond, which was issued with the World Bank's support. Now let's look at the cost of this bond. Government is expected to pay 9.25% as interest on the Eurobond. This translates into almost $70 million every year. This is, however, lower than the about $111 million on the 2015 Eurobond, which had an interest of 10.75%. Yesterday's Eurobond will be paid over 5 years and in 3 separate installments. $250 million will be paid in September 2020, the next to be paid in September 2021. The last payment to investors be made in September 2022. Part of the funds will be used to settle a fraction of the 2007 Eurobond, which will mature next year, which government says the amount now left to be paid stands at $400 million. For some, the 9.25% government is going to pay as interest on yesterday's Eurobond could also influence the cost of borrowing for private businesses.
Now, the rate at which government borrows on the international market often becomes the benchmark for private sector borrowings. This is why a lot of market watchers are interested in the rate to be paid on Ghana's 5-year Eurobond. Government is expected to pay an interest of 9.25%, which translates into about $70 million every year. So is there a way out for private firms that will also want to borrow from the international market over the same period? Mike Kobler is a financial consultant.
Even though we issued the 15-year for 10.75, that has come like a sticker in the minds of most investors. And if the private sector is to borrow, the international market always looks at that benchmark. So now that even though this is for 5 years or 6 years at 9.25%, That is a figure that will stick in people's minds. So you'd expect that the international lenders would be looking at lending money to the private sector than 9.25 plus, which is, like I said, much better than what we had issued in the past. So overall, we can commend the Finance Ministry for this feat, and we expect that even as market conditions improve, we would go to the market and refinance the more expensive bonds that we have trading out there.
Now, some political parties have been outlining their policies towards addressing some key challenges faced by the economy if elected. Notable among the issues addressed are plans to stabilize the local currency and ensuring continuous economic growth successively. This comes as Ghana prepares for the upcoming elections slated for December 7 this year, with call for the campaigns to be centered on sound economic as well as social development policies.
Parties Economic Forum, organized by Finance House Stepwise Group Limited, SGL, is aimed at engendering debate on the economy to help prospective voters make informed choices on which political party has the best policies to address challenges faced by the economy. There have been calls for aspirants to focus their campaigns towards the upcoming elections on economic as well as developmental issues. First to mount the lectern was founder and leader of the Independent People's Party, Kofi Akpaloo. For him, the problem of high cost of credit, which has been a major challenge for businesses, could only be addressed if proper identification and address systems were introduced in the country.
What we are going to do is that we're going to invest money in our ID system. We're going to allocate social security numbers to every individual from birth. And then we'll also invest in our address system.
Member of the Election Directorate of the NDC, Ibrahim Subairu, noted that government is initiating programs to help rural farmers increase their yields as well as sustain the recent relative stability of the local currency.
Putting mechanisms in place to help our rural farmers such that they will be able to, as it were, if not to determine the prices of their goods that they produce, but to some extent can have some power to bargain.
The National Democratic Party's representative, Mohamed Frimpong, said the party is determined to revamp the salt mining and agricultural sectors of the economy for growth.
The service sector shall further be boosted by partnering our communities and appropriate workplaces in expanding the frontiers of the industry. Industry, which comes next to contributing to GDP at conservatively 40%, will enjoy a deliberate boost by removal or minimizing all constraints bedeviling the sector.
Also represented were the Progressive People's Party, Convention People's Party, among others. The forum was under the theme, Ghana's Independence from 2017 and Beyond, Political Parties' Perspective.
This is the marketplace. Now moving on to other stories. The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is calling for financial institutions to support local manufacturing firms to adopt renewable energy. In recent times, mining companies have also resorted to renewable energy sources to meet their energy needs as part of processes to reduce the burden on the national grid and reduce their cost of operation. However, banking consultant Nana Otue Champon says this may not be possible if for banks because of the huge cost energy companies have already had with the banks. The Energy Commission expects all bulk energy consuming companies to adopt a 10% renewable energy target as part of the country's energy mix. That's the focus of the business agenda, which was first aired yesterday on the Business Live.
You are welcome to the Business Agenda, and today's agenda focuses on the energy sector, where the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is calling on financial institutions to support the manufacturing sector in particular in adopting renewable energy. This is towards the country's 10% target of renewable energy by the year 2020. Support by the financial institutions, according to Mr. James Asare-Agyei, the president, would go a long way to help them in implementing the policy.
A number of players or businesses are doing well in trying to look at alternative sources like solar. It is gradual because with solar, the sunk cost, which is the initial cost, has always been high. So it is very difficult to say that use 1 million Ghana cedis, to set up your solar source. Elsewhere, some sort of reprieve are given by way of either guarantees or facilities, over medium to long term. Probably the solar system is set up for you and you have to pay it over 3 to 5 years. And these are all options that AGI and other institutions are exploring, such that gradually we would be able to shift away from grid power. And I think it's very worthwhile. We're calling on other financial institutions also to see it beneficial and a business avenue for them to finance, such businesses that would want to install solar.
You heard the president of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, James Asare-Agyei. I'm sure you're wondering what response there would be to this call. Well, banking consultant Nana Otuo-Acheampong thinks it would be very difficult for banks to finance such projects because, according to him, they are already saddled with huge debts from financing projects in the mining as well as the oil and gas sector. He thinks that companies or banks that are listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange are in a very good position to finance such projects.
It is a good call. Unfortunately, the answer is difficult to come by in the sense that they are looking for medium to long-term financing. Unfortunately, the income sources of the banks in terms of savings are not long-term in this country. Most of them are at best medium, and you cannot use short to medium-term finance to finance long-term projects, and this is where the difficulty is. Already, the banks are well involved in the energy sector. If you look at the VRA issue, you look at the projects that they are doing on the oil fields, they are already well stretched. So to ask them for extra finance for the renewable energy, in my view, is a bit of a tall order.
But can't anything be done about it? Banks looking for long-term financing to help these, manufacturing firms in particular, because in the long run, it will benefit the economy, wouldn't it?
And it will benefit the banks as well if they are able to finance it. Usually, you would expect long-term finance to come through the stock exchange. Some of these banks are listed on the stock exchange, so the option is open to them to go there. But with the economy in the state it is now, it's very difficult to even raise funds through the stock exchange because at the end of the day, investors will be looking for some return relative to if they put their monies on bonds like treasury bills. And since the treasury bills are now paying so much, it's very difficult to be able to get equity finance, which they need for long-term projects.
You heard Nana Otuo-Acheampong. He's a banking consultant. Do make a date with us next week for another edition of the Business Agenda.
And you are still watching the Marketplace live on Joy News. Let's take a short break here. More stories coming up. Don't go away yet. Thank you very much for staying and welcome back to the Marketplace. Now, beginning this Sunday, 11th of September, mobile cash service providers will start paying interest on the wallet deposits of subscribers. This first interest payment would constitute the first quarter of 2016, whilst that of the second quarter is expected to be paid the following week, 18th September. The interest payment, which is taking retrospective effect, has been approved by the Bank of Ghana. In this report, Sheila Tamaklo explores what subscribers need to know about the mobile cash service.
funds on mobile wallets of subscribers are still lodged at the various banks, even though the new regulations empower telecom companies to operate the service. That is to say, the telcos can open different accounts with different banks for this. According to the Bank of Ghana, the interest to be paid on mobile wallet deposits ranges between 1.5% and 7%. The telecom companies have generally welcomed it as fair. The director of mobile at Tigo Tara Square has been explaining.
The conversation on interest happened, it's a three-way conversation between banks, telcos, and the central government, basically to decide what's fair interest to pay to customers based on the nature of the funds, how they sit, how long they sit. Our job here as a channel, which is what we are, is to ensure that customers for using our channel receive the interest that banks have calculated, accrued, and paid.
The interest is to be computed daily, but aggregated and paid to subscribers every 3 months. Southern Zonal Manager for GN Bank, Kofi Fosu, explains this will be done after discussions between telcos and respective banks that keep custody of the funds.
You know, the money, the banks are not going to have the individual telcos customers account. No, we can't manage that. So we are not going to manage micro individual accounts. We are managing the telcos account. And therefore we agree, for instance, if you have 10 million in your account, if you are getting, say, 10-15% on the 10 million, if you move your deposit to, say, 20-50 million, we can top it up to about 18. That goes to the telcos. Then the telcos also determines how much they will offer to their customers who have wallets. For instance, 10 cedis, 20 cedis, it's up to the telcos. They can do it better. We don't go to that level. We will be at the level of the telcos. The telcos can also graduate the level of their interest. For instance, if you have 50 Ghana in your wallet, you qualify for 2%. If you have 300 Ghana, it will be 5%. If you have 1,000 Ghana, maybe 10%. They can also do that range for customers.
The head of Vodafone Cash, Martison Obeng Ejay, also explains how telcos will extend the final payments to subscribers.
Now, what happens is that because the money is kept with the banks are the ones who are actually doing the calculation. And all this is a matrix that's been determined together with us and the Bank of Ghana, who is the regulator for both us and the banks. So the arrangement is made. What happens is that for every customer on a daily basis, your daily balance, whatever you left on your phone by the close of the day, is kept in the bank, and so the bank will calculate an interest on that amount, and that amount is divided by what everybody else has kept. Like so you know, it's a big pool. So it's what everybody has against what you had, and it's calculated on a daily basis, divided by a certain amount, and then the average is struck, and everybody gets a payment for what they have kept on their phone for the period.
Subscribers are to receive 80% of the interest that accrues every 3 months, whilst the remaining 20% goes to the telcos. Edmond Bewa is the head of corporate sales, Airtel Money.
The central bank has given indication on when payments are supposed to be made. Payments are being made in 2 tranches. The first tranche will cover the first quarter of the year, which is January to March, and the second payment will cover the second quarter of the year. Now, the first payment is expected to be made on 11th of this month, and the second tranche will be made on 18th of this month.
But how can beneficiary subscribers access the funds on their mobile phones?
The mode of payment will be through your Airtel Money account. So for every Airtel Money subscriber, you will receive an SMS notification indicating the payment that has been made to you. And of course, we will spell out how much you have received, over what period, and how much you have received, for what purpose, and over what period that interest covers.
So we'll credit your wallet and send you a message to let you know that this money that's been credited to you, it represents interest accrued over this period.
And Want more interest on your mobile cash? Well, banks like the Bank of the Year Fidelity have some suggestions. William Durban is the Director for Inclusive Banking and Corporate Social Responsibility at Fidelity Bank.
What we are doing as Fidelity Bank is we are actually linking our accounts to the mobile money. So if you have a mobile money and you want to link it to a bank account to earn extra income, extra interest, you can do that.
All right, so that feature was compiled by Sheila Tamaklo. Now, finally, traders in some markets in Accra are urging farmers to go into the cultivation of tomato species normally imported from Burkina Faso and the Ivory Coast. They say there exists an untapped potential market for Ghanaian farmers to maximize their profits as well as easing the inconvenience and risks that traders go through to purchase the preferred species from outside the country. According to them, tomatoes from neighboring West African countries are highly patronized by consumers to the detriment of locally grown vegetables. Joy News' Komla Adom visited Accra's biggest foodstuff hub, Agbogloshi, and reports calls of traders and consumers stated their preference for tomatoes from other parts of the sub-region.
According to the traders, tomatoes from Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast and other parts of West Africa are fleshy, have longer shelf life and also taste better. Despite the pricing of the species from Burkina Faso being on the high side, they explain the quality it comes with far exceeds locally cultivated produce.
Customers are always choosing the Burkina-based species as compared to our local ones.
The local species are too watery and have too many seeds. For the ones from Burkina Faso, it's fleshy, has a longer lifespan and less seeds.
For these traders, the high patronage of the fruits received from customers encourages them to travel all the way, defying the associated risks. Some consumers Joy News interacted with highlighted some of the attributes that endear them to the Burkinabe tomato species.
I go to retail the tomatoes. Those from Burkina stays longer and I get much yield. All my customers prefer the ones from Burkina.
I'm here to get the Navrongo tomatoes. It can stay longer for me. That's why I like it.
But the Peasant Farmers Association blames low patronage of the local tomatoes to the bad farming practices that have culminated into poor fruit yields. Programs Officer of the association, Bismarck Owusu-Norte, says a lack of agricultural extension services to the farmers have been the bane of their woes.
The Ghanaian tomatoes, the ones that we cultivate in this country, we have to look back and look at the farming practices that we do as a country. The issue is not only about seeds. So farmers need to know the modern practices of production.
Meanwhile, the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, says it has acquired varieties of tomatoes from Burkina Faso to test for cultivation in Ghana for viable outcomes. Kwesi Ofeibonsu of the CSIR, however, says the Ministry of Food and Agriculture must address issues of agricultural extension services to ensure some of these challenges are addressed.
What we have done is we have gone to Burkina, we have taken some of the varieties that they are growing there. We want to come and grow them in Ghana here and see how they perform. And if they perform, we are going to disseminate this into farms. They should be doing more. What research? We do the research. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we pass the research findings to the, how do you call it, to Ministry of Agriculture. And Ministry of Agriculture is supposed to send it to the farmers.
Meanwhile, for many of these traders, as long as the Burkinabe species of tomatoes continue to increase their profit margins and sustain their business, it is absolutely worthwhile, unless Ghanaian farmers take a cue from their neighbors. Komla Adom, Joy News, Agbogloshi.
And on that rather interesting feature, we conclude this afternoon's package of the marketplace. Thank you very much for keeping company with me throughout the week. And of course, we bring you yet another interesting package beginning Monday. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafe. Meantime, you can get interactive with us by tweeting. Joy Business GH is our handle. Facebook, Joy Business is our page. And for more business updates, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Good afternoon and keep watching.